It began with a single tone deep in the core of the warship, a short pulse of electronic sound sharp and clinical like a scalpel on silence. The operators inside the heart of the floating fortress felt it as much as they heard it. A signal that something had crossed a threshold that no vessel should cross. A contact too close. The ocean was calm and wide like polished glass stretched to the curve of the world. The ship moved with slow, unstoppable force, a steel island powered by hidden reactors that stirred the deep water into boiling white churn behind the stern. Hundreds of sailors worked across decks and corridors. Each part of the ship thrummed with purpose. Aircraft rested under tie-downs. Fuel lines were locked. Sensors swept sky and sea with invisible fingers. Inside the Combat Information Center, the main screen refreshed with its quiet heartbeat. Then, without any build-up, 3 returns blinked into existence on the lower right quadrant. They had not approached. They had not crept through range like normal vessels. They appeared instantly as if born out of the empty sea. Their icons glowed a dull yellow, unknown. The officer of the watch leaned forward. His throat tightened. That tone was never wrong. Exclusion protocols marked a vast invisible circle around the carrier. Nothing entered that ring without notice. Nothing survived long if it tried to test the perimeter. Every navy knew the rule. Keep distance. Yield right of way. A supercarrier was not a ship. It was a sovereign force. A message was relayed to the captain. His response was measured but swift. He walked to the bridge with the calm of experience, yet every step carried pressure. He had seen storm fronts swallow destroyers. He had watched missile trails tear sky apart. He respected the sea, and he respected the silence of unknown contacts far more. From high above the warship, the drones watched the ocean roll in slow silver lines. The vessel was enormous, more tonnage than some cities, more firepower than entire nations. It carried aircraft that could strike land across continents. It carried interceptors. It carried electronic warfare suites that could blind radars and choke satellites. Yet its greatest power was mass. Pure kinetic authority. If it touched another hull at speed, that hull would break. The 3 contacts moved in a triangle with steady precision. They did not broadcast identification. They did not turn away. They paced the carrier like wolves testing a mastodon. On the bridge, the screens updated range in silent high-contrast text. The distance closed grain by grain. The sea remained bright and deceptively peaceful. Below deck sailors whispered about the reports. Some felt excitement. Some felt the ancient prickle of fear. A warship of this weight did not maneuver like a small craft. Once committed to a course, its body of steel resisted the will of men. A collision would be catastrophic not only to metal and crew, but to diplomacy. One misguided approach could drag nations toward conflict. The captain ordered visual confirmation. A drone skimmed low over the surface until its camera angled toward the intruders. They were small vessels, civilian-sized at first glance, wooden or fiberglass hulls darkened by weather. But their bows were reinforced with metal plating, purpose-built for ramming. This was no accident. This was design. Hail was sent across international frequencies. No voice replied. Only ocean static answered the bridge. The captain stood still. He watched the formation without blinking. Beneath his coat, the deck vibrated with steady engine rhythm. The warship advanced at constant speed. Turning now would require space and time that the intruders were stealing by the minute. On deck, aircraft handlers paused beneath the morning sky. Jet intakes glittered with dew. The giant carrier cast a shadow on rippling water that seemed almost unreal in scale. It was a leviathan built for strike dominance. Yet here it was threatened by something small and deliberate. The asymmetry itself was unnerving. Inside the CIC, one operator noticed a surge beneath the surface near the leading contact. A shadow, like a submerged fin, flickered across thermal imagery. Another tone sounded, not a warning, a designation. A submerged metallic object had entered the exclusion zone from below. Unknown depth, unknown speed. The captain felt heat rise behind his eyes. This was not harassment. This was layered approach, surface distraction, and underwater advance. Someone wanted to know how close they could push before the giant bared its teeth. Someone wanted a reaction. Orders were prepared. Radio officers transmitted final instructions demanding course change. No answer. The small vessels edged nearer with grim determination. They were inside unsafe distance now, collision likelihood rising. The warship towered above them like a steel cliff, yet they did not yield. The seas around the bow rippled in distorted rings. Then a plume of white spray shot upward behind the lead boat. A long metallic shape breached like a spear rising from the deep. Water streamed down its hull. It moved far faster than any fishing craft. The drone zoomed close, and the crew saw its form clearly, an unmanned underwater vehicle armed and active. The captain stepped forward to give the only order left. Before the words left his mouth, every display in the Combat Information Center flickered once. The lights cut. Consoles died. Power vanished like breath in cold air. A blackout silenced the greatest warship afloat. The ocean held its breath. Something had seized the carrier from the inside. Darkness swallowed the bridge like a curtain drawn in a single heartbeat. The hum of consoles fell silent. Ventilation stilled. Even the steady vibration of data streams through fiber lines disappeared. For a moment, the crew stood frozen. Dozens of eyes reflected faint emergency strips that glowed along the deck like red coals. A ship this size was not meant to feel still. Its power was constant like a pulse. Now that pulse had stopped. The captain whispered one word: restore. The order moved through the dark like a spark. Sailors reached for manual switches. Backup generators thumped deep within the ship as if the giant itself tried to wake. Yet systems remained blind. No radar, no scope, no eyes. The most powerful warship afloat had been struck not by missile or torpedo, but by silence. Outside, unseen by the bridge crew, the three small vessels drifted closer. Their hulls bumped against the rising swell. White spray rolled across their bows. The ocean whispered along their sides as if urging them forward. The carrier continued straight with enormous momentum carried by mass alone. Without guidance, even the slightest course held danger. The operations officer used a handheld set to contact engineering. Static hissed like wind through old wires. Emergency panels flickered. Red strobes lit the ceiling like distant lightning trapped inside steel. Crew moved in disciplined lines down tight corridors. The smell of oil and metal thickened as they approached junction rooms humming with backup power. In the engine spaces, technicians shouted over the roar of turbines. They checked control boards lit only by emergency LEDs. The reactors still burned with unimaginable heat. Yet the nervous system of the ship was severed. Control surfaces were deaf. Sensors blind. It felt like standing inside the body of a sleeping giant praying it would open its eyes again. On deck, the sea wind cut across the flat runway. Crewmen stared at the horizon with raw unease. The black water beyond the bow held no answers. The drone feed was gone. Comms dead. Above them, fighters sat like silent birds with wings folded. One misplaced spark, one drifting hull, one bad wave could unleash chaos. Minutes stretched long. The captain forced breath steady. His voice held firm. Restart sequence. Step by step, the crew shifted valves and breakers. Power routed through alternate lines. Screens blinked dull gray, then black again. Something blocked restart. Something inside the network. An officer from cyber defense ran onto the bridge chest, rising with urgency. Not accident. Intrusion. The blackout was a deliberate strike. A system inside had been breached. The underwater drone was not an attack. It was a key. Far below waterline in a compartment, few ever saw a cable bay glowed with soft green points. One of them pulsed irregularly. Not ship standard. A device latched to fiber trunk like a parasite, drawing life from the host. It transmitted through seawater narrowband packets invisible to surface radar. Sabotage. The captain processed the realization like cold iron through bone. This was not a test. This was penetration. Someone had placed a device aboard. Someone wanted the carrier blind. Someone wanted to force contact at close range. Outside, the distance between hulls continued to shrink. Small engines growled faintly against the backdrop of waves. If one of those craft touched the bow even slightly, the world would feel the shock. Steel on steel. Sovereign vessel harmed. Headlines. Tensions. Retaliation. A junior sailor braced at the bridge window, searching for the intruders. He saw shapes rising and falling with the water. Too near. Too slow. Too sure. He felt the weight of history pressing on his chest. Every collision in naval history had consequences far beyond the deck. A single scrape could ignite oceans. Engineering tried a hard reboot. Systems trembled, then coughed. A single console flickered to life for one heartbeat, then died. The ship remained blind. The cyber officer proposed manual isolation of infected trunk lines. The process required access to the lower deck. Tight metal corridors. Heat and pressure. If they reached the parasite before it transmitted further, they could restore control. But there was risk. The device could trigger sabotage deeper in the system. It could open valves, overload circuits, ignite fuel. The captain made his choice. A small team moved toward the lower level, armed only with tools and determination. They ran past bulkheads, past sleeping consoles. The ship felt like a hollow cathedral of steel waiting for judgment. Every step echoed like a drumbeat. Above them, the hull rolled slightly. A faint impact sounded from starboard. Not heavy, not damaging. A nudge. The first touch of another vessel against the wall of a supercarrier. Crew froze. The contact repeated softer than thunder, yet heavy with consequence. The intruders were making physical contact. The damage control officer shouted to stations. Roving patrols moved to outer edge. They braced for more impacts. They listened for engines. They listened for scraping steel. Then, through a break in the darkness, one crewman caught sight of the nearest boat through a narrow view slit. There was no crew aboard, no pilot, no figure, no face. The boats were unmanned, controlled remotely or per-programmed to strike. A collision was not an accident, but an objective. The captain demanded status from the team below. Static answered. The carrier rolled slightly again. Metal groaned like a beast stirring in deep sleep. The water churned with foam as the small craft pressed harder. In the cable bay, the team reached the parasite. A steel box no wider than a helmet, clamped to fiber like a hungry insect. Lights pulsed, code streamed. The chief reached out to pull it free. Before his fingers touched the housing, a sharp metallic click sounded from within the device. A hidden mechanism armed itself, and suddenly the deck beneath them shifted with a violent jolt as something massive collided against the hull. The impact felt like the whole ocean rose and punched the ship in the ribs. Steel boomed with a deep animal roar. Pipes shuddered. Ceiling panels trembled like brittle bone. In the cable bay, the team stumbled to their knees. Tools skittered across the deck with metallic clatter. The chief steadied himself, eyes locked on the device, clamped to the trunk line like a venomous creature ready to strike again. On the bridge, alarms finally flickered to life with weak dying light. Emergency circuits bled power into a fraction of the network. Enough for the captain to see warning symbols spread across status screens like infection. Hull breach minor. External contact escalating. More unmanned vessels pressing. The ocean no longer felt calm. It felt like a battlefield. The giant carrier still moved forward with irresistible inertia. Its weight alone could crush steel hulls like fruit skins. Each hostile craft that nudged aside risked grinding itself into splinters under the tonnage of the warship. But damage was not their true purpose. They were anchoring themselves close, too close, close enough to ride the bow wave, close enough to remain beneath weapons' safe arcs. They were shields. And inside that ring, the carrier was blind. Below decks, the team regained balance. The chief pointed to the parasite. One swift move. Yank the feed, kill the signal. But fear held the moment taut like stretched wire. If they ripped it free without disarming the trigger, it could detonate charge, could flood circuits, could disable propulsion, could turn the most powerful warship in existence into deadweight drifting in open sea with unknown threat attached like a barnacle filled with code and sabotage. The captain demanded progress through short broken bursts of radio. His voice sounded distant like thunder behind walls. He stood at the bridge window, jaw set like stone. Outside waves rose and fell against the hull, but through the haze he saw something new. The unmanned vessels were not alone anymore. A fourth shape approached from beyond white foam, long, narrow, low in the water, not civilian, too clean, too sharp. A fast attack craft painted in gray with numbers smoothed by spray. It cut across waves like a blade drawn across silk. It was crude, it was armed, it was waiting for this moment. The captain understood the plan with brutal clarity. Blind the carrier, disable sensors, force contact, approach under veil. The smaller boats acted as chariot horses, drawing danger closer until the true spear arrived. A hostile patrol craft now within range of the bow, too near for aircraft launch, too sudden for escort interception. This was coordinated pressure, a test of dominance. Crew rushed along deck edges, ready to repel boarders, rifles low, eyes hard. The roar of the sea mixed with heartbeat. Tension was thick as oil in the air. Flags of great nations trembled through the minds of officers who knew history. A single hostile crew stepping aboard could ignite international fire. Naval treaties born of blood could tear like paper. The captain ordered engines to half. Without main guidance, this was like steering a mountain with fingertips. The carrier slowed only by instinct and hope. The hostile craft pulled closer, its bow angled toward the massive hull, like a wasp preparing to sting an elephant. Below, the chief snapped decision into action. He tore open the parasite housing with gloved hands. Sparks flared, code flashed silent. The mechanism inside clicked again, sharper, louder. He inhaled and drove his palms under the clamp. With a grunt born from duty, he ripped. The device snapped free like teeth breaking from a predator jaw. A surge rolled through the cable trunk. Screens across the ship blinked gray, then bright, then alive. Radar watched the ocean in digital sunrise. Target returns flooded back like ghosts reappearing from fog. The captain saw everything in perfect detail. The unmanned boats hugging hull. The attack craft prowling close. The underwater drone still circling like a shark. He did not hesitate. His voice struck the bridge like a hammer. Full power. Hard starboard. Clear perimeter. Air defense standby. Weapons safe until command. The warship woke like a sleeping titan stirred by fire. Engines thundered through steel. The deck trembled upward with sheer torque. Water exploded beneath the bow as the colossal body turned. The unmanned boats were torn away by force of displacement and shattered into white spray as the carrier rolled past them like a mountain shrugging off insects. The attack craft accelerated, desperate now. Its crew scrambled. They expected blindness. They expected hesitance. Instead, they saw a supercarrier with senses restored and will unbroken. Radar tracked the craft with steady lock. Targeting screens glowed with restraint. The captain knew one shot would sink it. But destruction was not victory. This moment required message, not blood. A warning transmission thundered across maritime channels, powered by restored comms. Spoken with authority of steel and nation, turn away or be seized. You are inside protected defense range. Final notice, the fast craft faltered. Engines trembled. It banked hard away, unable to match the massive turning arc of the carrier. The warship gained speed like a god-reclaiming thunder. Its wake rose behind in boiling fury. The hostile vessel broke pursuit and fled into horizon spray like a shadow outrunning dawn. Sailors exhaled for the first time in long minutes. Deckhands steadied jets. Damaged teams sealed scratches along hull. In the cable bay, the parasite device lay still on floor. Dead metal, defanged, yet the lesson carved itself into memory deeper than steel. This was what happened when something got too close to the most powerful warship built by man, even blind, even wounded. It was danger incarnate. Its mass alone was a weapon. Its presence could reorder oceans. Ships that approached without respect were crushed by consequence. Threats that lingered were erased by reality of scale and resolve. Far behind the stern, shattered debris floated like driftwood under morning sun. The carrier moved on, systems restored. Eyes open, a Titan aware of every ripple. The world watched through satellites and Navy rooms lit in quiet blue. They understood the message without broadcast. Do not approach lightly. Do not test the Colossus. Because when you get too close to the world's most powerful warship, the ocean does not forgive. The steel does not yield. And history records the moment in cold iron and salt and silence. A blackout hits the world's most powerful warship without warning. Sensors die. Communications vanish. The ocean turns from calm blue to silent threat as unmanned vessels drift dangerously close like wolves circling a sleeping giant. Below the surface, an unseen parasite hijacks the carrier's brain while a hostile attack craft closes in hoping to test the limits of a floating superpower. But steel never bows. With seconds to spare, the crew tears the cyber device free, resurrecting the ship from darkness. Engines roar, radar wakes. The ocean bends as the Titan turns with unstoppable power, and the attackers scatter like shadows before dawn. If this journey through warships, men, and the unforgiving sea moved you, don't forget to subscribe to Naval Pulse for more powerful naval storytelling. If you were the commander in this story, would you risk everything for victory or retreat to save what remains? Tell us in the comments. We want to hear your verdict.